Kory, you coach a lot of fighters. What separates the ones who have success from the ones who don't?
Hmm. I think when you break down fighters, there's some guys that are really talented, guys and girls, I should say. Some that are really talented, some that have a lot of, work ethic, are really tough, and some that are a little bit of both. And I think the ones that really seem to excel are the ones that don't make excuses. They show up to training. They show up to training consistently. They're willing to fight often. That's a mistake that I made when I was, coming up, is I didn't fight as often as I should have. But yeah, don't make excuses. Show up and train consistently, and really just have that mentality that I'm always going to be learning and trying to get better. Like almost like a student of the game for forever.
White belt mentality.
Exactly, because you can't think that you know everything, and you have to be willing to listen, learn, adjust, adapt, and be consistent, not make excuses. I know that might seem like a lot of things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like those, though, in my opinion, those are the things that make you the best athlete that you can be.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked by any of that.
No.
Yeah, that white belt mentality, like I've heard you talk about it on here before, like makes a huge difference. Like just being able to step back and learn from whoever it is teaching you. Like, I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and I still learn. Like I can watch other people do things and ask a question, and it's not to say that it's not that I don't know that move, but I want to know, like, hey, like why'd you do it that way? Like, why'd you do it that way and not this way? Then, like, when they can explain it, then it gets you thinking. You're like, okay, like, let me try that. Or, like, why do I do it this way and not that way? And start to reinforce that, again, going back to that why. If you understand why you're doing something, it's a lot easier to find the best way to do it. And, just always being a student of the game, never stopping, being, coachable, taking instruction, but also not just blindly following certain people. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, just like with kids, like you have to make sure that they're still willing to push back when it's necessary to push back.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like you want me to do this, like why do you want me to do this? Because if it doesn't make sense to me, why should I do it?
Yeah, I think the greatest question that you can ever ask is why.
Yeah,
like there's no better question than why about anything.
Yeah, my oldest is a big why guy right
Yeah,
now.
hey.
Yeah.
Why do I need to put on my shoes?
Yeah, trying to learn.
Because we're leaving the house.
Yeah.
Why do I have to put on a sweatshirt?
Yeah.
Because it's 30 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Why?
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Everything's why right now.
Yeah.
You got to make it make sense for them.
Yeah.
Make it make sense. Make it make sense. That's
Yeah.
a great thing. Everything, make it make sense.
Yeah.
Daddy,
'cause
why
if
does it get
doesn't-
dark outside?
Oh, here we go.
Well, the Earth orbit.
Yeah, and then I'm like, because it means it's time to go to sleep. I start to explain. I'm like, no, like that's gonna go way over. Then that's just gonna open up a whole nother envelope of questions that
Yeah.
I don't have sufficient
My-
answers for.
My dad's answer was always physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why physics? Well, why physics? I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
I got to learn physics.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot about the mindset of stuff that actually works. There's a lot of woo bullshit and self improvement. What's some of that total bullshit out there? Or things that are out there that are said about the mental side of things that's just total bullshit.
Opinion here, but I think
That's what we like. We like opinions.
the positive mindset thing is sometimes bullshit. And I say that because it's real easy to just like stay positive. Positivity doesn't get you shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, yeah, it's good to be positive, but we're not looking at something of like, how can I be positive here? It's how is this productive? Does that make sense? So like when you have a thought, it's not thinking, oh, I need to make that a positive thought. It's like, no, it's looking at the thought you had and thinking, how can I make this a productive thought? And where does this opportunity lie? Because if we're just trying to be positive all the time, we're just like, okay, this isn't bad. This is good. It's like, well, that doesn't mean shit. There's no substance to that. It's like, okay, let me be able to reframe my thinking in a way that is productive and serves me and comes from gratitude and sees opportunities. That is ultimately kind of the framework you need to create in your mind, not just like, oh, let's be positive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, simple answer on that one. But man,
that's great.
The positivity movement, like, and sometimes, if I'm being completely honest, like people always like, oh, be nice to yourself. Like you got to show yourself grace. Be nice to yourself. No, sometimes the best answer is to be like, hey man, like what the fuck are you doing? Like take a step back, get your shit together and start doing the right things. Like you have to have those hard conversations with yourself. And that's not positive. You know, it's sometimes it's negative, but it's being real, being honest. And that is where you can actually see, okay, how do I move through this? How do I change my mind to be productive? Not just see the positive. I don't care about positive.
So that's why I like the word enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Because it adds that productivity side to the positive. You're excited to do something.
Right.
Like, you can be positive about it. That doesn't mean you want to do it. But
yeah.
if you add enthusiasm to it, now you're excited to want to do it. So,
and just like looking at it, that's a great thing. So if we talk about like being grateful, right? Like we talk about like, if you want to set yourself up to have a good mindset going into things, it's not just about being positive. It's about beforehand being intentional with the way you think about it. So like, if I want to set myself up to enjoy training today, even if maybe I wake up and I'm dreading it, but I want to make sure that I enjoy it so I do well, I take a step back and say, okay, like what am I excited about to go train? And it's not just being excited to be there or whatever. It's like looking at it in a productive way, or what opportunities does it give me? You know, like, okay, it gives me an opportunity to see a lot of my friends. It gives me an opportunity to push myself. It gives me an opportunity to stay true to the pillars that I want, you know, to embody. And it gives me the opportunity to actually do something that's uncomfortable. And then you look at it and you're like, okay, I have these opportunities. And I framed it that way because I want to be intentional about how I go into this training session. And that intention ultimately helps you take action to improve. And then you're not just dreading the training session anymore. You have something to look forward to. And it's not because you're being positive. It's because you're seeing the productivity that comes from it. And I'm not talking about productivity as far as like doing more. You know, it's not that big old woohoo thing. It's like, how is this serving?
Well, it goes back to like quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So making sure you're getting the quality reps in, but you're intentional about the quality of what you're doing.
Right.
And you're going to be more you're going to have better productivity doing it that way than if you just do rep after rep after rep.
It's like when you think about goals, right?
Yeah.
Like probably a big goal guy, and you want to have SMART goals, right? You want things that are measurable. So it's like, okay, if I set intentions before I go train, and we're using training and stuff because I'm a fighter, right? But this applies to anything, right? You set intentions beforehand, and you're like, okay, what do I want to get out of this session? What am I going to do to get that outcome? And how can I actually measure that? And it goes back to the data thing. Like, okay, like I want to be more resilient. I want to build my cardio, and I want to, you know, practice these things to make sure that I don't give up in the fight. Okay, that's great. How am I actually going to do that? Well, when I'm sparring, when I start to feel tired, that is my opportunity to shoot a takedown, to move forward. Okay, that's great. How many takedowns do I want to get each round? Like I want to get 3 takedowns each round, at least, or attempt to get 3 takedowns each round. And then you look back and you're like, okay, how well did I do? Well, I got tired and I didn't make the choice to go for that takedown. Now that's a measurable thing. I only went for 2 takedowns. So tomorrow, how am I going to improve? Next time, I'm going to say, okay, again, I'm going for 3 takedowns. Now when I'm presented with the choice of whether I want to push through being tired, I'm going to make that choice to go for that other takedown. Maybe it puts me in a bad spot. Maybe it gets me, you know, choked out, whatever it is. But it doesn't matter, because ultimately your goal there was to push yourself through that barrier that you created because you were tired, and to improve your cardio, to improve your resilience, and to improve your ability to adapt and move forward. And you did that. So it doesn't really matter that you got choked out because you went for a takedown, you were gassed. It matters that you achieved the desired outcome that you wanted and were able to measure it, improve on it, and implement it the next day.
Set the goals for the things that you can control.
Yeah. Control. Yeah. So like, the dichotomy of control, right? What you can control, what you can't control. Because when you start trying to control things you can't really control,
you're screwed.
It's and like if we want to apply that to fighting again, like, people often fear like failure, fear losing. You can't control the outcome of a fight, right? But what you can control
is how you fight.
The things you do, what you embody while you're in there. That's why, like, when I look at it, I don't think about beating the other person. I don't think about winning. I think about breaking them. Because if I can break them, then I'm probably going to win. You know what I'm saying? And how do I break them? It's like, okay, if I can move forward, if I can push harder, if I'm tired, I know they're tired. And if I'm tired and I can push even further, I know they're going to be even more tired. And then you see that, you can see it in their body language. And then you're like, okay, one more time. Like, they just got up after I took them down, and that's a big victory for them. Let me take them down again.
Make them get up again.
Make them get up again. When I get them down, like, let me, they got a cut on their forehead. Let me grind my elbow into their face and make them bleed a little more. I know that sounds brutal, but we're talking about breaking them mentally. And when you break someone mentally, you're more likely to be able to beat them and win. While you can't control the outcome of winning, you can control the actions you take to break them.
See, so I was a baseball player, and fortunate to play at a pretty high level. And everybody talks about how baseball is one of the most mental sports out there. But having gotten into jiu-jitsu, I'm like, fuck that. That is way more mental than baseball.
Yeah.
But having that deep background in baseball, I mean, these are all things that we learned from playing at from a very young age. For the successful ones, the ones that were able to go on. I was taught from a young age, like, again, like you said, control what you can control. But same thing, it's like I can get on the mound and I can control where I throw the pitch.
Yeah.
But once that ball leaves my hand, I am no longer in control. I can make the perfect pitch, and that guy just puts a perfect swing on it and hits a home run.
Yeah.
But I can't. I have to go back and step on that mound and do it again. And who knows? The very next time I face him, I could make the exact same pitch, and he swings and misses, or he rolls over, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's I never went out there thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go strike all these guys out. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go and attack. I think we were talking about that before you walked in. I was talking with the guest we had one before about setting goals and things like that, and that's just kind of the approach that I've always had.
And like every time you throw that pitch, let's say he does hit a homer, you have to step back on that mound and be able to reset.
Absolutely.
Be able to disconnect from it, right? And it's like one of my old hockey coaches, absolutely great coach, and he would always say, fix it and forget about it. And I always tell myself, etch a sketch. Like when I need to fix something, etch a sketch. And it's not just like a mental thought. It goes with a physical like movement, right? Because when you can start pairing a physical movement with a mental thought, it reinforces it, right? So like you can think like, oh, I need to reset. And sometimes you're able to reset without doing something physical, right? But if you can think like you're getting rocked or whatever, and you're like, man, I need a reset. You get out of the pocket. You just take a deep breath and you're like, okay, you have like some type of trigger word, whether it's like just simply thinking reset, I personally think etch a sketch. That's just simple for me. Like it's just deep breath, etch a sketch. And then you're right back into it. You're focused because you're trying to just win moments. You're not trying to win the war.
Yeah, like, one of my favorite coaches that I had was always like, act like you're a chicken with your head cut off. Because what happens when you cut the head off a chicken? Body still runs around before it dies. So like your trigger word was etch a sketch. Mine was chicken. I would just sit there, think, step back, chicken. Cool. Picture a chicken running around with his head cut off. Yeah. Step back on the mound and good to go.
Just dial it in.
Yeah.
And you had a coach that kind of brought you to that point and knowing that, but there's a lot of actual studies and science that goes into that concept of resetting. And I think a lot of people come about those things pretty naturally. They don't really understand why it works or whatever it is, but you obviously knew, like, hey, when I said chicken, I stepped back on that mound, it worked, right? And that's like super cool to see that those things can be implemented without any type of like, having some mindset coach that's telling you you need to do this. Like a lot of things, like your body's pretty intuitive. You kind of know, like you should be able to explore like what kind of works for me and how can I make this better and take a step back and reflect and in this moment do this. And ultimately it's chicken sometimes.
I mean, I got it from like, I ultimately started in 8th grade. It was a book called The Mental Game of Baseball. And basically talked about all sorts of mental tricks and tips and things written by one of the best sports psychologists out there, Jay Dorfman.
Yeah.
And it was incredible to read. I mean, shit, I think last year was the first year kind of upset about myself. You know what? I didn't read it. I listened to it. So it was the first year that I didn't actually read the book, but I've read the book or listened to the book every year since I've been in 8th grade.
Yeah. It's discipline and consistency right there.
It's my favorite. It's like my Bible. So
do you think every man should train in combat sports?
I do. I really do. Because I think combat sports is something that whether you want it to or not, you're going to build some of the characteristics that you need to be a man. Whether it's the physical capability to actually protect your family if you need to, whether it's like having the physical strength to do, certain things, or it's the mental side of things, like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, being able to set your ego aside and take a loss and being able to adjust and adapt to the struggles that you have, like overcoming obstacles. So when you look at it, it's like, okay, being a man, you should be able to lead by example, overcome obstacles, deal with stress and, do things that are uncomfortable, do difficult things, do it with a grateful heart and a productive mindset. And you should have the physical capabilities to back those things up, right? And if you don't, that's okay. You can always work on them. But combat sports helps you do all of those things. Combat sports helps you kill that ego inside that's going to make you want to always be right in an argument with your significant other. It's going to give you a little bit of a softer side with your kids. It's going to make you feel more secure in the person that you are. It's going to give you an opportunity to mingle with people that are like you in some ways and vastly different than you in many other ways. Because a gym is one of those places where you'll have people from all types of races, all types of professional jobs. Like, you can have, cops and criminals on the mats at the same time. It doesn't matter. There's going to be a mix of people. You start to expose yourself to those different people, those different perspectives. It gives you better perspective. And it also teaches you to learn, reflect. And those are two things that are vitally important to being a man, being a husband, being a father, all of those things where it's like, okay, I need to be able to learn. I need to be able to kill my ego. I need to be able to adapt, be consistent, build strength mentally and physically. And all of those things are embodied in martial arts. And it doesn't matter which one you choose. You could choose jiu-jitsu, you can choose MMA, you can even choose some of the other ones. But ultimately, combat sports just helps you like be a better person and build a skill. And I think one thing that I forgot to mention is it gives you a community. And I think that that's one piece that so many men are missing in life, right? So many times we feel like we're alone. We feel like we're alone in our struggles. We feel like we're alone in the problems we have. We feel like we have so much that's riding on our shoulders and so much that we have to do. But when we step on the mats, we have people around us. We know that despite our differences, everybody loves everybody. We're going to come and get a good training session in. We're going to talk afterwards. We're going to connect deeply with one another. And we're going to know that these people have our backs. And that community is vitally important to being a man.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. I agree with everything. I mean, we had our guest we had on, it was an episode that aired yesterday, is talked about a lot of men not having a community. And it was pretty much exactly what you just said. And he was kind of more talking toward like veterans, and guys that have come back from deployments, and talking about just the increase in male suicides over like the last, what was it, since 2014?
40%.
40%
Up
increase or
40%.
something, which is just saying like as many men have died from suicide as women have died from breast cancer.
Yeah.
Just,
I think it's
sense of community could be a big piece of that.
Yeah, the community, whether it's just
camaraderie.
like the camaraderie, whether it's giving you another like purpose, like something to get good at, right?
Yes.
I think especially people in the military, they have highly skilled jobs, highly stressful jobs too. And they're so good at that. They thrive in that chaos. They have unbelievable abilities, and they get put back in the regular world, and they're like, this is just not stimulating. This is like, I'm doing some job that I feel like doesn't have a purpose and whatever. You get on the mats, and then it's like, okay, like you feel that like stress again, and you feel like, oh, I can overcome this, and now I can deal with it, and I can adapt, and I can put this like anxiety and maybe some anger and whatever into my training, and it gives me an opportunity to learn a skill set, right? Because a lot of those people are highly skilled individuals, and they can't use that skill set in their everyday life. But now they can learn a martial art where it gives them another opportunity to build a high skill set that they're probably going to be pretty good at. And now they can use it, and they feel like they have the community, they have the purpose, and they're building a skill set they're being able to learn. And they're also, it's a means of expression. At the end of the day, martial arts is an art. You get to express yourself through that, right? And it's like, okay, when somebody watches you fight, or when somebody watches you compete, you want them to see your competition and think about you in a certain way, right? And you can ultimately train to be able to do those things. So whenever I compete, I want somebody to look and say like, man, he was resilient, he was relentless, and he was fearless. And how can I do that? Like, I can make sure that I'm pushing forward, that I'm never quitting on myself, that I'm taking risks, I'm being intelligent about the risks that I take. Like, it's an expression of the person you are and the things that you want to embody, and you're doing it through movement and, sometimes a violent art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One other piece, that I don't think you mentioned, but it's something that I think about a lot, is it really shuts martial arts really shut off the rest of the world while you're doing it.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can't focus on anything other than that guy in front of you.
Mhm.
And that's like one of my favorite pieces of it, just because, with all the stuff I have going in my life, it's like the one place where I can kind of go, or this is in my bag and up in the locker room, and I can focus. All I'm focused on for this next hour is training.
Yeah.
And it's like therapeutic.
Yeah,
And
you
really,
hit it right on the head. Like, step on the mats and everything. Just, you have singular focus, and you see this now. Like, how often you're standing in a line at a coffee shop, and we used to be able to just stand there and be alone with our thoughts.
Not
Now
anymore.
everybody just pulls out their phones
Yeah.
every time, and like, we're losing the ability to be alone with our thoughts, right? And that's kind of scary. But when you step on the mats, like, you don't have a phone, you don't have those things, and you have a singular focus where now, like, yeah, you don't have to be alone with all of those thoughts that are building up, but you get to focus and like express yourself, and like you said, just be present. I think that's the biggest thing, is like being present, and we can build that presence into all of the aspects of our lives. Like, everything would be way better.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is just a vehicle to do that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was the hardest thing. I mean, it is the hardest thing I've ever done, which makes everything else in my life super easy.
Yeah.
Like, if I can
Yeah.
knock that out in the morning, like,
Yeah.
my day is super productive, because
Yeah.
nothing is going to be harder than what I just went through on the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
more, man. So what's a belief you used to hold about training or mindset that really changed?
Ooh, that's a tough one. About training or mindset. I would say that one thing that I've changed significantly is the idea that more is always better. And I say that because as I've gotten a little bit older, dealt with some injuries, more is not always better. And that's not to say that I'm not telling you to go and, train less or do less, because no, you need more often than not, you're not going to overtrain. You should be training full intensity, doing all of these things. You should be tired. You should be hurting and all of that kind of stuff. When I say more is not always better, it's you have to know where you're at. If you're actually dealing with a certain injury but like we talked about before, you still need to do something. Maybe today's not the day where you do more. Maybe today's the day where you do that small something and you recover, because tomorrow you have to spar. And tomorrow you want to actually do more and push yourself beyond where you thought you could go. So today, because I'm dealing with this injury, I do what I need to do, but maybe I don't push as hard as I could have. And I think, a lot of people could probably interpret that in a bad way, because you'll hear a lot of people say, train smarter, not harder. I think that's kind of bullshit sometimes, because you got to train hard, man. Like, you're getting locked in the cage with another person that's trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
If you're not training hard, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to get beat up enough that you want to quit. You have to train hard. But there are times where you have to be intelligent enough to say, hey, maybe today I don't do more. Maybe today I do the things I need to do. I do what I set out to do, but I do them a little differently to get the most impact overall, so I can do even more tomorrow that I planned on doing anyways.
How do you define success in your life?
Define success. To me, success looks like living my purpose. Because I say that because success, what I thought about success before was accomplishing a lot of things. And I think there's a lot of people that think that is like, I want to accomplish this goal, and I want to accomplish this goal. I want to accomplish this goal. But once you accomplish that goal, what happens next? And I think especially as a driven individual, you're always driven to accomplish certain goals, right? And you accomplish the goal, and then you're like, okay, I did this thing. I bought this car. I won this tournament. I did this thing. Like, what do I do next? I need to do more. I need to do something bigger. And for me, while those things are great, and I think those things do impact your overall success, success to me looks like living with purpose. And I would say my overall purpose and mission in life is to educate and inspire while sharing connection, love, and wisdom along the way. And being successful means that through all of the things that I do, I'm going to live in alignment with that mission. If I do that, then no matter what I do, no matter how my life changes, no matter how my goals change because of whatever circumstances or whatever path I go down, I'm still on the track of living that purpose. I can feel fulfilled and successful because of that, no matter where it takes me.
Well, you said your mission is to educate and inspire, excuse me. What's the biggest lesson fighting has taught you?
To never give up, to never quit, keep moving forward. There's always a way, and I remember this very distinctly. I used to go to the Thoroughbred Wrestling Academy to train with Jesse Martinelli, because he coached there. So, a couple times a week after he got done coaching his practices, it'd be like 8:30, 9 o'clock. But I'd go there and we'd get some extra training in, like we were talking about before. And I remember Marcus, who's the owner of Thoroughbred and a coach there, and he was talking to the younger athletes, and he would always give the most incredible speeches after these practices. So I felt grateful to even be there, just waiting for Jesse to be done while I'm listening to these speeches. And one day he was talking, and then, we were kind of talking afterwards, and he told me, you don't always have to be better than the guy. You just have to find a way to win. And that made me realize, like, okay, no matter what, there's always a way. There's always a way, no matter what obstacle you face. It's like you kind of like extrapolate from that and expand it out to apply to different things. But no matter what obstacle you face, no matter what you do, no matter who you fight, no matter what it is that you're dealing with, there's always a way to get through it. There's always a way to get around it, even if you can't see it in the moment, even if you feel like deeply depressed, like deeply hurt, like you're struggling with a lot of things. It's just taking a step back and remembering, like, hey, man, like you're going to get through this. Like you're going to find a way. You always do. And like having faith, you know, whether it's religious or not, just having faith to say, hey, there's always a way forward. And I think that's the biggest lesson that MMA has taught me because, you know, over the last 10, 15 years, like there's been so many obstacles. There's been so many times where I could have quit. I could have stopped training. I could have stopped fighting. I could have stopped coaching and whatever. And like plenty of excuses. And ultimately it's like, hey, just, you got to keep moving forward and taking a step back, remembering your why, moving forward and knowing like, hey, there's always a way. There's always a way to find a way to win and whatever winning looks like to you.